Shalom family, I'm Brother Rael from Reunited Soul, and in this video I'm going to discuss the Moshaic Law regarding the Most High's holy days. That is laws number 87 through number 107. I will cover these laws in order from the widely accepted list from the 12th century scholar Maimonides. So let us nourish our soul with scripture, that we may reunite with the Most High, the Elohim of Yisrael. All scriptures will be read verbatim from the King James Version Bible. Now, let's get right into it. Welcome back to the Moshaic Law series, where we will cover the 613 laws or commandments found in Torah. Hopefully by now you have seen the previous videos where I covered laws numbered 1 through number 86. And for the sake of time, I will forego the Moshaic Law series introduction, where I give a brief background on the 613 laws or commandments. Also going forward, I will refer to it as the law or the 613 laws. With that said, we are covering the laws regarding the Most High's holy days that He has commanded His people to keep. To identify those holy days, I will give the English name, then the Hebrew name. So the holy days covered in laws number 87 through number 107 include the Sabbath or Shabbat, the Day of Atonement or Yom Kippur, the Passover or Pesach, the Feast of Weeks or Shavuot, the Feast of Trumpets or Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Tabernacles or Sukkot. As I said, this discussion will just cover the laws regarding these holy days and will not go into depth as in how to observe them. I will, however, provide scripture that confirms the commandment from the Most High to observe each holy day and the time to observe them. I will also point out laws that are merely religious traditions of Judaism, which simply are not the commandments from the Most High. Since this discussion will be dealing with holy days that are observed in specific months, I wanted to go ahead and provide you a list of biblical Hebrew months according to the Tanakh or Old Testament scriptures. I want to emphasize biblical to prevent confusion from the months named by the religion of Judaism. Now, from my understanding, they use Babylonian names to identify their months. So we use biblical names, they use Babylonian names for their months. They even use the names of other gods for their months, which according to Torah, Exodus chapter 23 verse 13, forbids us to speak the name of other gods. Not sure how they managed to do that and claim to follow Torah. So, allow me to read the names of the biblical months. The first month is Abib. The second month, Ziph. The third month, Sivan. And skipping to the 6th month, Elul. The 7th month, Ethanim. The 8th month, Bul. The 9th month, Chislev. The 10th month, Tebeth. The 11th month, Sebet. And the 12th month, Udar. Now you may have noticed that the 4th and 5th months were not named. In any case, we will simply identify them by their number if the need arise. So let's begin with laws of the Sabbath or Shabbat, which includes laws number 87 through number 91. keeping in mind that we are still scattered as the Most High's people and not in the land promised. For example, if your employer requires you to work on Saturday, do not just throw your hands in the air and give up. You can simply observe the Sabbath as soon as you get home from work. Now, many of us are experiencing different levels of affliction and calamities while in the land of our captivity. Do what you can, seek the Most High, and trust in Him. With that said, let's go ahead and begin with the Sabbath. Law number 87, to rest on the seventh day. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 23, verse 12, and I read, 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the seventh day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid, and the stranger may be refreshed. Law number 88, not to do prohibited labor on the seventh day. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 20, verse 10, and I read, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. Law number 89. The court must not inflict punishment on Shabbat. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 35, verse 3, and I read, ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. Now, some of you may have the understanding that the assigned scripture has no relation to law number 89. In that case, I myself have the same understanding as well. Although I did double check to make sure that it was not a typo on my part, and that simply was not the case. It remains that this law and assigned scripture is the one selected according to the 613 commandments listed by the 12th century scholar Maimonides. Although there seems to be no correlation to the law's description and the scripture assigned, nevertheless, the scripture itself is a commandment of the Most High, and therefore I will briefly speak on it. Ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitation. Now, we must understand during our biblical ancestors' time, there were no matches, lighters, stoves, or ovens that you can turn on by simply turning a dial. To kindle a fire for a meal was probably quite a chore. Gathering wood, preparing everything for the meal from scratch, then tending to the fire that it did not go out before the meal was cooked. A lot of work, wouldn't you say? If the men, the servants, the strangers, and the cattle were able to have a day of rest, it only makes sense that the women were able to observe it as well. If you think cooking in our modern day kitchens is a chore, imagine what cooking was like for our biblical ancestors. Now, some may argue that the Sabbath is a day of fasting, since we are commanded that there is no kindling of fire. It is not too far-fetched to believe that they must have fasted. So let's go to the scriptures to prove that is not so. In the case of manna that the Most High provided for his people. Also keeping in mind that manna was to be eaten the day it was collected. It would go bad if you tried to keep it for the next day. So let's go to Exodus chapter 16, verse 22 through 25. And I read, and it came to pass that on the sixth day they gathered twice as much bread 2 omers for 1 man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that which ye will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. So as you can see, you are able to eat on the Sabbath. Our biblical ancestors baked the manna on the 6th day and ate it on the 7th day. And in our modern times, many of us do not have to kindle fire as in the biblical days, but I would humbly suggest to plan for the simplest meal possible on the Sabbath, that everyone could observe the day of rest. You can cook it on the 6th day and serve it on the Sabbath. You can even use paper plates, plastic forks, and spoons so there will be no dishes piling up, tempting you to wash them. So basically, when it comes to observing holy days, it does take some pre-planning and preparation in order to have what you need. So early preparation is definitely key here, family. Let's continue on with law number 90, not to walk outside the city boundary on Shabbat. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 16, verse 29, and I read, See, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place, let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. Now, law number 90 may be more of a tradition of Judaism, where the law states not to walk outside the city boundary, which simply allows those practicing Judaism to attend their local synagogues on the Sabbath. Whereas the commandment from the Most High states in Exodus chapter 16, verse 29, let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. We must understand the penalty for violating the Sabbath was very severe. If someone goes out of their place, they may be more susceptible, consciously or subconsciously, to complete a task that violates the holy Sabbath. I prefer to stay in my place as commanded, studying the Most High's word, praying and giving thanks to the Most High, spending quality time with family, and resting. What more can a man ask in a day of rest? Also, keep in mind that the Sabbath does not require a holy convocation as other holy days, meaning no requirement to assemble. So please make note of law number 90 as religious tradition. Law number 91, to sanctify the day with Kiddush and Havdalah. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, and I read, Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Here we have again in law number 91, another tradition from the religion of Judaism. To know what Kiddush and Havdalah are, we would have to venture outside of the Tanakh or Old Testament scripture to find out. Now let's be very, very clear. The Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments are in Torah, which is in the Tanakh. Venturing outside of that Looking for commands and instructions by men will only lead to disobedience to the Most High. Simply put, Kiddush is a ceremony that begins the Sabbath. This involves a prayer over a cup of wine before the meal on the eve of the Sabbath. And the Havdalah is a ceremony which concludes the Sabbath. This involves a prayer over wine and lightings of candles. We are simply not commanded in Torah to perform such ceremonies in order to keep the Sabbath holy. As you can clearly see, the assigned scripture does not support the law given. So please, make note of law number 91 as religious tradition. Now we move on to laws number 92 through number 95 regarding the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, which is the 10th day of the 7th Hebrew month of Ethanim. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23, verse 27 to confirm this holy day and when we should observe it. And I read, "Also on the 10th day of the 7th month, there should be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord." At this time, I would like to point out in verse 27, it states to afflict your souls. Afflict your souls, not your bodies. This does not mean to whip, bruise, or mutilate your flesh. Keep that in mind. Laws number 92 and number 93 shares the same scripture. I will read both laws, then the assigned scripture. Law number 92, to rest from prohibited labor. Law number 93, not to do prohibited labor on Yom Kippur. The scripture assigned to these two laws is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 32. And I read, "It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls. In the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even, shall ye celebrate your Sabbath." To clarify the two scriptures that I just read, Leviticus chapter 23 verse 27 stated the 10th day, and Leviticus chapter 23 verse 32 stated the 9th day at even. Just to be clear, the Day of Atonement is on the 10th day. However, we are to observe the Day of Atonement from evening of the 9th to the evening of the 10th. Law number 94, to afflict yourself on Day of Atonement. The scripture assigned to this law is Leviticus chapter 16, verse 29. And I read, "And this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, ye shall afflict your souls, and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country, or a stranger that sojourneth among you." Law number 95, not to eat or drink on the Day of Atonement. The scripture assigned to this law is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 29. And I read, "For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people." Laws number 96 through number 99 covers the Passover or Pesach, which is observed in the first Hebrew month of Abib, followed by the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23, verses 5 through 6 to confirm the time in which we are to observe the Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread. And I read, "In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread." Please note, in verse 5, it designates the evening of the 14th day. Now let's go to law number 96, to rest on the first day of Passover. The scripture assigned to this law is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 7, and I read, "In the first day ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein." So, the first day of Passover is likened unto the Sabbath, where it is a day of rest. Then on the 15th day, the Feast of Unleavened Bread begins, which lasts for 7 days. This may require preparation and some due diligence on your part, because leaven is an ingredient in many of the foods that we love to eat. So keep in mind that a loaf of bread is not the only thing that contains leaven. Many of your baked desserts and snacks have leaven. Even pancakes and waffles. Oh dear. So, please do your due diligence and plan accordingly. Law number 97 through number 99 share the same assigned scripture. I will state each law, then read the assigned scripture. Law number 97, not to do prohibited labor on the first day of Passover. Number 98, to rest on the 7th day of Passover. Law number 99, not to do prohibited labor on the 7th day of Passover. The assigned scripture to this law is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 8, and I read, "But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. And the 7th day is an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein." Next, we go into the Feast of Weeks, or Shavuot, which is observed in the 3rd Hebrew month of Sivan, which is 7 Sabbaths after the Passover. You may also hear some call this the Feast of Pentecost because it occurs 50 days after Passover. For the sake of this discussion, however, I will refer to it as the Feast of Weeks. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23, verses 15 through 16 to confirm when we are to observe this holy day. And I read, "And ye shall count unto you from the morrow, after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord." Law number 100 and 101 share the same assigned scripture. I will state each law, then read the assigned scripture. Law number 100, to rest on the Feast of Weeks. Law number 101, not to do prohibited labor on the Feast of Weeks. The scripture assigned to these two laws is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 21, and I read, "And ye shall proclaim on the selfsame day that it may be an holy convocation unto you. Ye shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. This is a holy convocation, meaning the Most High's people assemble together for this holy day. Moving right along to the Feast of Trumpets, or Rosh Hashanah, which is observed in the 7th Hebrew month of Ethanim. The assigned scripture for this law will confirm the holy day and the time we are to observe it. Law number 102, to rest on the Feast of Trumpets. The scripture assigned to this law is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 24, and I read, "Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and holy convocation." Law number 103, not to do prohibited labor on the Feast of Trumpets. The assigned scripture to this law is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 25, and I read, "Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord." And lastly, we have the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot, which is observed in the 7th Hebrew month of Ethanim. The assigned scripture to confirm this holy day and the time we are to observe it is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 34. And I read, "Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord." Laws number 104 and number 105 share the same scripture. I will state each law, then read the assigned scripture. Law number 104, to rest on the Feast of Tabernacles. Law number 105, not to do prohibited labor on the Feast of Tabernacles. The scripture assigned to these two laws is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 35, and I read, "On the 1st day shall be an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein." The last two laws we will cover is in regards to Shemini Atzeret. Shemini meaning 8th day, and Atzeret meaning a day for assembly. So right after the 7 days of the Feast of Tabernacles, the Most High's people will assemble, a holy convocation, on the 8th day. We will confirm this holy day and when to observe it by the scripture assigned to these two laws. Laws number 106 and number 107 share the same assigned scripture. I will state each law, then read the assigned scripture. Law number 106, to rest on Shemini Atzeret. Law number 107, not to do prohibited labor on Shemini Atzeret. The scripture assigned to these two laws is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 36. And I read, "7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein." There you have it, family. Laws number 87 through number 107 regarding the Most High's holy days. Now, I must admit that these laws are a bit more complex than the previous laws that we already covered. And like I said earlier, this discussion was not intended to go into detail about the various holy days. And it would be remiss of me if I did not mention that there is much debate about the exact dates of the holy days. And this debate stems from how one defines the new moon phase. For example, some believe that the new moon phase is when there is no moon visible in the night sky, while some believe that the waxing slither of the crescent is the new moon phase. Then others believe that the full moon is the new moon phase. So as you can see, we have 3 phases of the moon that is believed to be the new moon phase. And why does the moon play such an important role as to when holy days will be observed? Simply because the new moon signifies a new month. So when the Most High commands His people to observe a holy day on, let's say, the 14th day of a specific month, it is critically important to know the exact day that that month began. Also keeping in mind that this is not a new moon discussion. That is indeed a discussion for another day. And I will only speak on a topic when I am led to do so, and not a moment before. The Most High willing, I may do a discussion in the future on the new moon to provide scriptural clarity. However, there is already plenty of information out there about the new moon, so please do your research. And if anyone feels led to speak on it in the comment section, you are more than welcome to do so. But please use scripture to support your position. In closing, my humble suggestion is for you to do your research and observe the Most High's holy days as best you can. And do not allow your joy of observing the holy days to be stolen by someone who may be overly critical of how you observe it. Do your research and observe it the best you can. And hopefully, as you become more knowledgeable and grow closer to the Most High, your preparation and observation of the holy days may show improvement with each passing year. Again, let no one discourage you by being overly critical or judgmental on how you observe the holy days. Remember, not so long ago, many of us were still blindly celebrating pagan holidays. Not holy days, but holidays. Thankfully, the Most High have awakened many of us out of that deep slumber. And a remnant of us not only stopped celebrating pagan holidays, but no longer have the desire to worship the very same idol that those pagan holidays were for. Let me repeat that. A remnant of us not only stopped celebrating pagan holidays, but no longer have the desire to worship the very same idol that those pagan holidays were for. Family, this is no trivial matter. You have sought the Most High in such a way in which majority of our people are not willing to do. With that said, always keep your trust in the Most High. Love Him with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. See to it that your household is in line with the word of the Most High as best you can. I thank you for taking the time to watch. Again, I am Rael, your reunited soul brother. And with that, I say to you, Shalom.